And again, I've got nothing bad to say about Tom. Tom, don't hit me with a copyright strike, please. Thank you. That would not be friendly. All right. So what really happened?
If you've been following anything about the United States Concealed Carry Association recently, or anything to do with the legal protection, legal coverage in case you're involved in a self-defense gun shoot, you may be aware of the fact that there's been a bit of a controversy that's been stirred up recently that has to do with a USCCA member.
I'm going to speed it up to 1 1/4 speed, just in the interest of time. In fairness to Tom, I don't want people to think he talks that fast. Normally. Let's see, playback speed. 1.25. Okay, here we go.
By the name of Alan Collie. I'm excited to tell you that we appear to have a conclusion. We appear to have the facts, and I'm excited to be able to share that with you today. So guys, let's get into it.
Tom, I really like
for those of you who don't know, here's a really quick rundown. So Mr. Alan Collie was and is a member of the United States Concealed Carry Association, headquartered right here in beautiful, though presently very cold, Wisconsin. That's the USCCA. One of the benefits that members of the USCCA get is that if they're involved in something that can be fairly characterized and reasonably characterized as a self-defense shoot, is that their member benefits kick in and apply. One of those benefits is the fact that they get to choose any criminal defense attorney they want. Unlimited coverage. Go ahead, pick the biggest, best person, man, woman, doesn't matter. Pick the best attorney you want. The USCCA will stick a check in their pocket. They are now your attorney. Low resolution, that's the gist as to how that works. Well, something came up here where Mr. Collie was involved in a self-defense shoot. You can find the video of his shoot. I'm not going to use it on my channel because my channel is too small. I'll probably get demonetized if I show that video. The bigger channels, for whatever reason, YouTube treats them differently. But you can just put him in, Alan Collie.
I don't think you have to worry about it, Tom. I showed it on my channel. My channel's what, 1/5 the size of yours, or 1/4 the size of yours. But just FYI as a data point.
He was involved in a YouTube prankster who was basically kind of picking on him and bullying him in the mall. And long story short, Mr. Collie shot him. And again, super low resolution details. You can see the shoot there. Mr. Collie was subsequently arrested, detained, thrown in jail, and ultimately criminally charged as a result of that shooting. He was represented by the Public Defender's Office, not an attorney. And I'm not going to say a USCCA attorney because frankly, that has to do with a USCCA member. Oh no, here's a really quick rundown. So characterized as a self-defense shoot, involved in something that can be fairly characterized and reasonably characterized as a self-defense. Go ahead, pick the biggest, best person, man, woman. Well, something came up here where Mr. Collie was involved in a self-defense shoot. You can find the video of his shoot. I'm not going to use it on my channel because my channel is too small. I'll probably get demonetized if I show that video. The bigger channels, for whatever reason, YouTube treats them differently. But you can just put him in, Alan Collie. He was involved in a YouTube prankster who was basically kind of picking on him and bullying him in the mall. And long story short, Mr. Collie shot him. And again, super low resolution details. You can see the shoot there. Mr. Collie was subsequently arrested, detained, thrown in jail, and ultimately criminally charged as a result of that shooting. He was represented by the Public Defender's Office, not an attorney. And
I think Tom is just misspeaking there. Obviously, the Public Defender's Office provides an attorney. You're not an attorney just because you're working for the Public Defender's Office. I presume he means he was represented by a public defender as opposed to a private counsel.
I'm not going to say a USCCA attorney because frankly, there's really no such thing as a USCCA attorney. As already described, you can choose any attorney you want. There are certain attorneys with existing relationships in place with the USCCA, such as myself and over 1,000 others across the country. But you're not limited to choosing one of those attorneys. Any attorney you want. Well, Mr. Collie chose to forego that portion of his membership benefits and instead to take the public defender who he met with presumably in jail during his time in custody. And that basically was the start of a whirlwind of speculation, which basically created a controversy. And I understand where that came from, right? We have a perception that all
I don't know. This doesn't sound very credible at this late date. I think this explanation is untimely. No offense, Tom, but if the issue was that Alan Collie simply so liked his public defender that he told USCCA, well, I don't need you to pay for a private counsel. Why wouldn't we have known that at the moment this controversy began? Why would that be hidden in some way? I mean, why didn't Tim say that in his video over Christmas?
Private attorneys, people like myself, that all private attorneys who you can go out and hire must be better than all public defenders. Of course, anytime you hear someone using the words always, all, never, things like that, number one, they're probably not an expert. Number two, it's probably wrong. And that's definitely the case. That is definitely wrong here. Okay. There are fantastic attorneys in the top tiers of practice who are public defenders. You cannot hire them. You have to be eligible for representation through the public defender's office. And then, and only then, if they are appointed to your case, do you have the option of basically allowing them to proceed with your case. Quick story. I used to be a state prosecutor back what feels like a couple lifetimes ago now at this point. I remember there's this one particular lunch where I was sitting around with some of the other prosecutors. I'm not going to name names, but somehow we got onto the topic of
YouTube's working for me, folks. My YouTube feed appears to be working.
If we were to be criminally charged, if one of us were to be criminally charged with a serious crime, okay, so serious felony, something like that, would we be happy with this one particular public defender, or would we hire out to a private bar attorney? Now, keep in mind, we know basically all the private bar attorneys, not only in our area, but the greater part of the state, since our area is right next to a major metropolitan area just outside Milwaukee. We were pretty familiar with all the players out there. And as I recall, every single prosecutor agreed that if we had been appointed this one particular public defender, we're not hiring out. That person was a battle axe. They were smart, they were tough, they were aggressive. Anybody who had them as a client would be fortunate. I don't know if that's exactly the same type of person who Mr. Collie had randomly appointed to him through the public defender's office. But by listening to how he talked, I'm going to read to you the email that he sent to Tim Schmidt, the co-founder of the United States Concealed Carry Association. It certainly sounds like to me he found.
But it's a false choice. I mean, I just don't see how that would, the scenario Tom's describing would come up, because you're only eligible for a public defender if you're indigent. If you're indigent, you don't have the option of hiring a private attorney. So I don't understand how anyone would be presented with the choice.
Found such an attorney and was fortunate to do so. You don't have to take my word for any of this. Let's check out what Mr. Collie said in an email to Tim. So this email was sent on January 23rd, 2024. It's also linked in the description box below to the USCCA website. Dear Tim, I want to...
Oh, I didn't know that. Let me take a look. Let me take a look and see if I can pull that up. I guess he's going to show it to us, right? Let's see if he shows it to us.
Address criticism that the USCCA has received about me and the attorney I chose for my case. I'm a member in good standing with the USCCA and continue to be. With the USCCA, I can have the attorney of my choice. I know I could have requested that the USCCA pay for a private practice criminal defense attorney for my case. I chose attorney Pouillard, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name, but that's the public defender that we're talking about, because he is a great attorney who believed in me and believed in my case. Yes, he's a public defender, and he fought for me and won. I am glad that I have the choice and wouldn't change anything about my representation. The USCCA stood by me and continues to stand by me, and I thank them for that. Sincerely, Alan Collie. What Mr. Collie is referencing is the fact that the USCCA...
Can I just... I mean, if I were a judge presiding over a bench trial and I had to make a finding of fact on the credibility of this explanation at this late date, it's so hard for me to believe.
After his attorney beat the big charges at trial, Mr. Collie was convicted of some small tag-along charges.
Because there's no reason the USCCA couldn't have said this at the start. Say, listen, we offered him money for a private attorney, and he didn't want it. He preferred the public defender. All right, fair enough.
Not uncommon in cases like this. But subsequent to that, as is typical, there's new counsel that will...
I don't know. Someone in the comments is saying, sounds like USCCA offered him some money to write that letter. I mean, I don't have any reason to know that. I don't know anything about that. Can that kind of thing happen? I suppose so. I don't know that it happened here.
Come on to take over for the appeal. And the USCCA has then stepped in at Mr. Collie's request to go ahead and to represent him on those charges. So the USCCA is funding his challenge on the appeal. I believe they posted his bail as well. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So the USCCA basically downstreamed this entire situation, then got him out of jail, and of course is paying for his appellate attorney. So why are we talking about all this? We're talking about this not because of Mr. Collie. We're talking about this because of the controversy that has come out of all of this. There's been a number of individuals that I have seen across social media, in my comment sections, people who've actually reached out to my office that I've spoken to over email, through the phone, face-to-face even, who have shared their serious concerns about, was Mr. Collie dropped? Because I keep being told that there are people saying that Mr. Collie was dropped or raising that concern that he was dropped. No, as we have now seen, situation closed.
But these kind of explanations. So no one is saying he was dropped. That's a straw man argument. We don't know what happened. All we know is that he had a public defender when he was a USCCA member. So it's quite possible that USCCA didn't drop him, didn't rescind his membership, but still didn't help him. That's what people are asking. Were you taking this guy's money and not helping him? See, it's this very technical defense. Well, we didn't drop him. Well, okay, so who cares about that? It's even worse if you didn't drop him, if you kept taking his money and then you didn't help him.
Mr. Collie was never dropped. He simply did not exercise his right to choose any attorney because he liked the public defender that was in front of him. I get it. Like I said, maybe he lucked out and found that one guy. What I want to address with this video, though, again, is that controversy, because it seems to me that there is a path forward. I know that we're never going to see eye to eye, perhaps, myself and others, about what's the finer points of the best legal protection plans. I certainly have my views, and I respect the views of others. However, I think a couple things have to be said for the record. One, there was a rush to judgment by a number of individuals and groups who, coincidentally, also profited enormously from raising those questions. And
well, I don't know if it was a rush to judgment, because this is not the only case. We also have the case of Kayla Giles, who was a member in good standing of USCCA, and she had to sue them in federal court because they stopped paying her legal expenses. And their only explanation, so I got the court documents from the civil suit, and the only explanation USCCA or Delta Defense or any of these companies that form up the greater universe of USCCA, the only explanation they ever gave in those court documents is they just believe they don't have a legal obligation to pay. That was it. And she got convicted. Murder. She's doing life in prison. She shot her husband during a custody swap in the parking lot of a Walmart down in Louisiana. And now USCCA hides behind the fact that she got convicted. See, she was a murderer. She got convicted of murder. But, you know, there's always a chance of getting convicted, no matter how innocent you are. That's just noise in the system. And would she have been convicted if she'd had the resources that USCCA promised as a member? We'll never know. We'll never know. I mean, now they say, well, you know, we did everything we were supposed to do for Alan Coley. He got convicted too on the discharge of the weapon and the building charge. Would he have gotten acquitted on that charge too if he'd had more legal resources? So I'm not sure it's a rush to judgment when it's at least the second time this appears to have happened, the failure to cover a member.
Always standing by, ready to go. But just the same, it was a peculiar their motives for doing it. I think that they definitely also profited.
Sorry, I forgot to swap back.
For the record,
I rewinded a little.
One, there was a rush to judgment by a number of individuals and groups who, coincidentally, also profited enormously from raising those questions and, frankly, stirring up the controversy. I'm not questioning their motives for doing it. I think that there can be an absolutely a mile-wide room of having a good faith discussion when any individual or company seems to make some sort of...
I don't know about this stirring up the controversy. The controversy was stirred up by the conduct of USCCA, or the lack of conduct, the absence of conduct. It became, it's a topic of public interest. We're allowed to talk about it. We're allowed to ask questions and make observations. I mean, I don't know what's being suggested here. Should we be prohibited from talking about this kind of stuff?
Sort of decision, although in this case here, as we now know, the USCCA didn't make any decision. They were seemingly always standing by, ready to go. But just the same, it was a peculiar situation to be in. And I think that there's...
Tim doesn't say that in his video. We were always there, ready to go. He just didn't want us. Doesn't it seem weird? You'd pay all this money to USCCA and then, you know, month after month after month, hundreds of dollars a year in membership fees. And then you're actually in a shooting and you're like, nah, never mind.
Plenty of room for a good faith discussion about why are we here, what's going on. We have to be searching for truth. And in order to search for truth and to have that free...
Wait, you're a lawyer, Tom. I'm a lawyer. When we search for truth, what do? We ask questions, right? We bring in witnesses. We subject them to direct examination. And then when the other side brings witnesses, we subject those to cross-examination. I mean, asking questions is what we do.
Expression and free thought.
That's how we arrive at truth.
Need to have room for error. We need to have room to get things wrong. That's not an issue here. The issue here is now we know what the truth is. The question is what will happen next? Will we now continue to see certain parties pushing what we now know to be a false narrative? Or
do we now know it to be a false narrative? You have to believe this email. You have to believe this explanation. We heard for the first time in this video. This has been going on for months and months.
Are we going to see some healing happen here? I don't know. That's not my ball here. And I want to be emphatically clear. I'm not throwing bombs. I've had conversations with, well, frankly, I think most of these people, and everybody was actually really nice to chat with and to get to know a little bit, both on the phone as well as in some cases in person. And I don't wish anybody.
Just for the record, I don't believe I've ever spoken with Tom, but which is fine. That's not a criticism of him, just so people are aware. I know some of the other lawyers who've commented on this case, critical of USCCA, who have spoken to Tom and said he comes across as a perfectly nice guy.
But ill out of all this. But I just want to make sure that hopefully we all learned something about rushing to judgment. We all learned something about pushing what turned out to be a false narrative. And some people made a lot of money off this. I get it. And we will see if we continue to see the same thing happen again and again and again on every single little case that we see, kind of this negativity that comes out of this. But at the end of the day, this is a really small pro 2A community that we have. And it'd be a shame if there's unnecessary controversy for no reason other than just to drive dollars here.
Well, it was for a reason. People pay a lot of money to be a member of USCCA. I mean, all these plans are not inexpensive. It's hundreds of dollars a year. And if someone is paying all that money and then it appears they're not getting the benefits of membership, and that happens multiple times, that's not just fabricating controversy. We'd like to know what's happening. And by the way, to believe this explanation, we have to believe that for all this time, since this broke months ago, USCCA had this explanation that at the time Collie was being represented by a public defender, he had told USCCA, no, I'm good with my lawyer. I don't need you to get me a private lawyer. And they withheld that information, although they were, I'm told, losing members like Niagara Falls over this controversy, and they chose not to stop that bleeding by simply explaining what happened, if this is what happened.
And again, leaving room for having open and free debate about which policy is better or which coverage is better and this and that. And
I mean, instead of an email at this late date, if USCCA had been informed by Alan Collie that he didn't want his member benefits, when did that happen? Is this the first time that communication is happening? Because then it's no excuse. The only way it's an excuse is if USCCA had been informed of that decision at the time. And was that a phone call? Was that an email? I mean, we're not even really shown this email, so we don't know what date this communication happened. I don't know.
We can certainly have those conversations, but hopefully
I don't know if Tom has a financial relationship with USCCA or not.
We won't have conversations based off of rampant speculation, especially when they turn out to be untrue. I realize I'll probably get lots of hate for this. I'm intending this in the best of spirits. Hopefully people take it that way. This is meant to be productive, not destructive. And hopefully this can be put behind us and we all move on to something bigger and more important. Thanks all. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check.
All right. And again, folks, I'll put a link to Tom's video here. Check out his channel. Oh, I see he's did a video supporting Paul Harrell. That's a very nice thing to do. Paul Harrell is a huge figure in the gun community. I think he's got a million, 2 million something subscribers for his YouTube channel. And tragically, he's got pancreatic cancer. and he does not appear to have long. And there was a number of people in the gun community who were trying to get, I think, his Twitter subscribers to 1 million or some effort like that, just as a nice gesture. So I certainly supported that. And Tom did as well, it appears. So that's a nice thing to do. Okay, so that was Tom's explanation. So, and it's another funny thing there is he keeps talking about that people made a lot of money over this controversy. Well, USCCA was losing a lot of money, I'm told, over this controversy. And why wouldn't you stop that bleeding by just providing this explanation? I mean, if there's no bad blood between Alan Collie and USCCA, just ask him, hey, do you mind if we explain to people? Why would he say no? You did, by this explanation, you just did what he asked you to do. It's very strange. So, but this people made a lot of money is over this controversy is an attempt, of course, to impugn their motives, whatever Tom may have said explicitly. That's the only reason for making a statement like that. But does USCCA, do they have a financial incentive to make this controversy go away? Would they be willing to pay a lot of money to make this controversy go away? I mean, that's not unreasoned speculation, right? We consider things like motive and incentives. All right, so that was Tom. Now let's take a look at Heavy Duty Country, and I'm embarrassed. I don't actually know. I'm not sure I know his name. I'm terrible with names anyway. Sorry about that, dude. Not trying to be obnoxious or anything, but this is his channel. 656,000 subscribers. This is a huge channel. In contrast, folks, my YouTube channel, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's got like 57, I think, 57,000. All right, so let's take a look at what Heavy Duty Country has to say. Let's see, how do I do this? All right, 8 minutes, and in fairness, I'll play him at the same 1 1/4 speed. Whoops. Okay, so here we go. And by the way, just to put this in context, Heavy Duty Country has been explicitly critical of USCCA, at least as critical as I've been over this case, maybe more so. I haven't watched a ton of his content. What I've seen is very good.
So I've been getting some emails from some very staunch USCCA supporters saying that I owe them an apology and I need to come out with another video. So as per request, that's what I'm doing. You guys asked for this. So let me start with the apology. I want to take this opportunity to apologize to Alan Collie, USCCA, and everybody involved for absolutely nothing. Or in the great words of Conor McGregor. You guys think that little Twinkie Dink email is selling anybody that's not as dumb as a doorknob? Okay, why don't we go over it then? So this is from Alan Collie to Tim, and it says, Dear Tim.
I'm just going to pause it for a second. So January 23rd, 5:51. So that's what, a week ago? That's a week and a half ago. So last Tuesday last week. John Browning's birthday, by the way. Oh, no. Yeah, it's January 23rd. So we got this letter on John Browning's birthday. All right, back to the show.
Tim, I want to address criticism that the USCCA has received about me and the attorney I chose for my case. Ooh, chose is the wrong word, but we'll get to that. I am a member in good standing with the USCCA and continue to be. With the USCCA, I can have the attorney of my choice. I know I could have requested that the USCCA pay for a private practice criminal defense attorney for my case. Ooh, whoever directed you to write this isn't familiar with the law, but we'll get there. I chose, once again, Attorney Pouliard because he is a great attorney who believed in me and believed in my case. Yes, he's a public defender, and he fought for me and won. No, he didn't. You still have a guilty charge. So he won one of the cases, but he didn't win. Sure, if you want to call it a win, but for me, a win is a full acquittal, not a half acquittal. I am glad I had the choice and wouldn't change anything about my representation. The USCCA stood by me and continues to stand by me, and I thank them for that. Sincerely, Alan Collie, USCCA member. Let's start.
Okay. I'm not saying that USCCA drafted that email. How would I know? But if USCCA had wanted to draft the email, I think it would sound a lot like that.
with the bottom. What normal dude has USCCA member as their email signature? You guys put this out, and you've had people contact me to, I guess, run interference. People telling me to be careful, and oh man, the truth is coming out. This is truth. Fuck, my God, for Alan Coley's sake, I really, really hope it's not. Allow me to explain. Let's start with the attorney I chose for my case. Buddy, you were appointed a public defender. They're appointed by the court from tax dollars. You didn't choose shit. Then he goes on to say, I am a member in good standing with the USCCA.
Well, let me touch in fairness. So of course the public defender is assigned to you. You don't get, they don't give you like, like a menu of public defenders and you get to pick which one you want. The public defender's office will assign one to you. But in fairness, after that one has been assigned, if USCCA had come to him and said, hey, do you want to stay with your public defender or do you want us to pay for a private attorney? Then a choice is being made.
Yeah, okay, so you're telling the USCCA this? Like they don't know? Or was this email meant to hit a bigger population of people? Or was it crafted that way?
That's a fair criticism of this email, right? Why would you have to tell them you're a member? They know you're a member. I mean,
I would have a hard time believing that the CEO, Tim Schmidt, needs to be informed that you were a USCCA member. Goofy as fuck, dude. And the fact that anyone is buying this is just, okay. Let's get on to the more important stuff. With the USCCA, can have the attorney of my choice. I know I could have requested that the USCCA pay for a private practice criminal defense attorney for my case. Do you know that that statement is committing perjury? No, you didn't? Okay, well, let's look at Virginia laws for a second. When you apply to have a...
So I know where he's going with this. My very first job in the law was for a public defender's office. I was not an attorney then. This was before I went to law school. I was an investigator for the office. And one of my jobs as an investigator was to interview defendants in jail and take a survey of their assets and resources to see if they qualified as sufficiently indigent to be a public defender. And the threshold is pretty low, folks. It's you really have to be broke. But then I didn't just take their word for it. I had to investigate and see if they had a house or a car or other assets, interview people. Is this guy really broke? That was all part of qualifying someone to see if they could qualify for a public defender, if they were sufficiently indigent. And yeah, you're doing all that under oath if you're the criminal suspect. So,
public defender, you have to fill out a form in Virginia. And that form is under oath, meaning that if you lie on that form, let me read exactly what it says. The penalty for false swearing with regard to statement of indigence. Any person charged with a felony who shall falsely swear or who shall execute the statement provided, knowing such statement to be false, shall be guilty of perjury punishable as a class 5 felony in Virginia. Now let's go to what one of the USCCA attorneys is confirming in his comments on his last video. So I'm on the outside, genuine questions. Alan had the choice to use his membership covered private attorney and knew all of his options through USCCA. And knowing all of the options available to him, he chose a public defender. Correct. Now, unfortunately for USCCA, they did not look at the court transcripts. Alan Coley said that he chose the public defender, but he was arrested in early April, and the court transcripts show that the public defender wasn't appointed to him until early May. So you're saying that he knew about all of his benefits from USCCA, that he could have used them, but he chose to wait an entire month, decline his USCCA benefits just to use a public defender that hadn't even been appointed to him yet? And people actually bought this. But
so this is, I have to say, this is great stuff. I'm not sufficiently interested in this controversy to have done this kind of research, so I'm glad that somebody is. But yeah, are we to believe that Alan Coley sat in jail without a lawyer when he could have had a lawyer immediately? And maybe the lawyer could have gone to his arraignment and argued for bail, so he didn't sit in prison for months. I mean, he probably wouldn't gotten a bail, but Alan Coley wouldn't know that. He's not a lawyer. He doesn't know what the standards are for bail. You'd want, obviously, a lawyer. Not today, not a month from now. So now to believe this USCCA explanation, we're to believe that Alan Coley shot the prankster, called USCCA, and then willingly sat in jail for a month before a public defender was assigned to him. Told USCCA, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to keep my public defender, the one he didn't have yet, the one he didn't have for another month. I don't know. I don't know, USCCA. I'm really struggling with credibility issues here.
But instead, he risks a class 5 felony for perjury, which is 1 to 5 years in prison, just to use a public defender instead of his USCCA benefits. And people are believing this. I mean, look at the form that you fill out. See where it says other there? The attorney that did the, I don't know, payback video to show that, I don't know, they're saving face or whatever. That video has no credibility, period. He's giving USCCA credit for something that legitimately never happened. Listen to this.
I believe they posted his bail as well. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So the USCCA basically downstreamed this entire situation, then got him out of jail.
Have you done any research on this? It is the most talked about thing in the news. The fact that he was denied bail from the moment he stepped in jail to when he was let out for time served. Bail was never ever an option. But here you are saying USCCA bailed him out.
I believe they posted his bail, then got him out of jail.
The fuck are you talking about, man? It just shows you know nothing about this. And you're just taking orders from USCCA. So let me get down to brass tacks, because honestly, I'm done talking about this. This is stupid. There are two outcomes that come from this. One, Alan Collie knew that he had an unlimited defense budget from the moment he called them right after he shot the guy. And he decided to risk being in jail for 1 to 5 years for committing perjury just to use a public defender and not his USCCA benefits. Or USCCA has orchestrated this whole thing and it's a flat out lie. Those are the only two outcomes. And I really hope it's not the first one, because Alan, you may have written this or had someone write it for you or taken a deal from USCCA just to help them save face. But by doing so, you've admitted to a crime. So for those of you who think you're up shit's creek without a paddle, I recommend you go to Attorneys on Retainer and you sign up and you drop whatever else you have, because Attorneys on Retainer, they don't have insurance involved with this. They're a law firm with a ridiculous amount of experience. They cover bail, which Alan Collie never got from USCCA. They cover your case all the way through trial. You don't have to use.
And by the way, folks, I've spoken with the Attorneys on Retainer guys, and they come across to me as very smart, capable attorneys. So if you're looking for coverage like this, as I said at the beginning, I do a lot of partnering with CCW Safe. I got my little discount code and all that, but no one of these plans or offerings is perfect for everybody. They all have different features, strengths and weaknesses, and so I encourage you to make an informed decision. The one I can't recommend, of course, is USCCA for obvious reasons. I'm a member of CCW Safe, but the guys over at Attorneys on Retainer is worth taking a look at, seeing what they have to offer, because it is different. It is different than CCW Safe. I'm just going to let it run to the end here. All right. Oh, I didn't play the last little bit. Sorry. Yeah, it just ran out the last of the video. Sorry about that, folks. I'm going to let him do his pitch for Attorneys on Retainer here. I think that's right where I paused it. In fairness, I want to let his video play out just like I led for Tom's.
Without a paddle, I recommend you go to Attorneys on Retainer and you sign up and you drop whatever else you have, because Attorneys on Retainer, they don't have insurance involved with this. They're a law firm with a ridiculous amount of experience. They cover bail, which Alan Collie never got from USCCA. They cover your case all the way through trial. You don't have to use a public defender, and they're not going to recommend you use a public defender, because at the end of the day, you don't have a choice on if you can use a public defender or not. It's protected by law. And also the owner of Attorneys on Retainer. He's a Marine, salt of the earth. And like me, he really gives a shit about the Second Amendment community. That's why this whole thing started. So we're giving you $50 off when you sign up. Also, they just opened their merch store. This is one of them. They got a bunch of other shirts. Go represent your self-defense coverage. And look, if USCCA wants to continue this, that's fine. But you're not going to play me as an idiot. And you're sure as hell not going to play the Second Amendment community as an idiot. And I'll end with this. USCCA, why do you think all of your people who used to promote you on YouTube have stopped abruptly? Why? Maybe it's because the stuff you're selling to people who can't comprehend anything and will just take this at face value. Maybe they're not those kind of people. Maybe they have a brain. You guys asked for this.
That's where I chuckled last time. The maybe they have a brain remark. All right. So that's the end of heavy duty countries response, I guess, to Tom's video and USCCA's claim. So, I mean, we all make our own evaluations of what we find credible and what we don't find credible. And I'm really struggling to assign much credibility to this USCCA explanation here.